Hello and welcome to How to Homeschool in High School, the podcast focused on encouraging and equipping teens and their parents to homeschool through high school. I'm your host, Nadine Laufer, and today is episode number 22. We have a very special guest, Dr. Shormann, creator of Shormann Math. Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Nadine. I am a high school homeschooler. I've been homeschooling for 7 years, and this podcast just serves as a platform to help you homeschool successfully through high school. So welcome, I'm so glad you've joined us for this episode. It's going to be amazing because today we get to talk with Dr. Shormann. If you are a longtime listener, you know all about Shormann Math and the impact it has had on my family. But today we get to hear from Dr. Shormann about his curriculum, the inspiration behind it, and encouragement for teaching math from home. This is an episode you will not want to miss. Dr. Shormann has 25 years of teaching experience. He is the author and creator of Shormann Math. He also does a bunch of videos for Saxon Math. He has a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering, a master's degree in marine chemistry, and a PhD in aquatic science. So pretty incredible, and he is going to talk about all that in more detail through this episode. So let's just dive right into it. Thank you so much, Dr. Shormann, for being with us today. Your curriculum has made a huge impact on my family, so I'm really excited to talk to you about it more and hopefully share it with some more people so they can have similar experiences as I have. So thank you again.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So to start off, I usually ask how you got started in the homeschooling community because everyone's story is so unique and often very inspiring for homeschoolers to hear.
Yeah, well, we homeschooled our son and daughter all the way through high school. My son's family, he homeschools. They're twin boys now. They're homeschooling also. So we basically got started when he was in second grade and making A's and B's, but couldn't really read and write in a public school. And this was like early 1990s. And there weren't many people homeschooling back then. And one of our pastors at our church, they had started homeschooling, and that kind of got us going. And there was like a small community where we were. And yeah, that's kind of how we got started a long time ago, and still doing it with our grandsons. So daughter has graduated and son obviously has graduated long time ago.
That's very kind of similar to how we started. A group of our friends from church were starting homeschooling. So my mom did it along. And it's nice to have like the community to kind of start out with.
Exactly. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
And then, so can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started teaching math to homeschoolers?
Yeah. Currently I live in Hawaii. My wife and daughter, we moved here 2014 from Texas. And we got involved in like doing homeschool classes early 1990s. Well, with our son, it was early 1990s. In 1996, God opened a door for us to start teaching some co-op style math and science classes. And that started in Bryan, Texas. That grew from like 10 to 15 students to hundreds weekly in the Houston area, about an hour and a half drive south of there. And we moved down into the Houston area and I started teaching at churches, community centers, things like that. And we also did marine science camps in the summer. And then I did some father-son adventure camps down remote Alaskan rivers. Yeah, that's kind of how we got going in the homeschool community. And I was like early 90s, finishing up a PhD, doing postdoc work, and was kind of looking to do something, professor wise or whatever. I just remember while doing postdoc work, God kind of put the words in my mind of teach math and science. And I thought that was for college, but it was for homeschoolers. And and so that's what we've been doing ever since. And just wanted to mention too, I have a bachelor's degree aerospace engineering from University of Texas, master's marine chemistry from University of Texas, and then a PhD in aquatic science from Texas A&M. So that's where I kind of get, aerospace engineering. If you know anything about engineering, it's basically all you do is math classes. But everything's math application. So that's kind of the math background, and then the science as well. So that's those two things combined. And being here, just some other things, being in Hawaii now, humpback whales come here to spend the winter. I've been doing research on those, apply my engineering skills, and God showed me a design for wings and wing-like structures like surfboard fins, things like that, that mimic the humpback whale. They have a unique pectoral fin. It's got
Mm.
these bumps on it called tubercles along the front, and that's scientists have studied that, and it's a flow control device basically that God built into them to help them maneuver, and they are super maneuverable for their size. They get 40 plus feet long. But anyway, God showed me this pattern that those tubercles were arranged in, and I was able to get a patent for that in 2020. And we're starting a surfboard fin company called Kahola Flowtech, to sell surfboard fins, kind of a proof of concept so people can see that and maybe think, oh, well, I want to apply that on something else, an airplane wing or different things.
Okay.
So,
That's really cool. I've seen some pictures of it, I think, on Instagram.
oh, okay.
It's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. I'll like share them. Yeah, we're just getting started with
Mm,
it, and a young man is like running our Instagram page for it,
mm.
and and then I'll like repost those. Yeah, but yeah, I filmed some whales, other marine life too. Some of my footage is in, maybe you've heard of Riot and the Dance. They have the Earth and Water films.
Okay.
It's produced in part by Classical Conversations, and Gordon Wilson is the narrator in it. But some of my whale footage is in that. Dr. Joe Martin, he just came out last year with I think a third volume of Alaska Treasures. He likes to talk about creation of different animals in creation and then their function and how that points to a creator. And so I have some footage in that, as well as like a sequence of where I talk about the flow control on the
Mm.
humpback whale. And then this year, sometime soon, we're going to have a film called Journey to Nova Rupta, and that's about research I did on Nova Rupta volcano in Alaska. And that's probably going to come out end of 2023, and that's like the biggest eruption since 1912 anywhere in the world, and 30 times larger than Mount St. Helens. And we did some research, just kind of, we wanted to document biblical history and the creation, flood, ice age, present day pattern, and you can see it there. And also just kind of talk about natural history and from a biblical perspective, and how like these high energy but short-term events like Nova Rupta, like the flood, how those have such a huge impact on the landscape that we see around us today. So yeah, those are some of the things we do.
Keeps you very busy.
Yeah, yeah, it keeps us busy, and just enjoying God's creation and trying to steward the education God's
Mm.
given me to, trying to steward that and use it. So yeah.
That's really inspiring too. And I think I saw the trailer for the movie
Oh,
on the
okay,
internet.
cool.
So that looks
Oh, great.
really interesting. So for the podcast, which is specifically for high schoolers, could you talk a bit
Hmm.
about what you offer for us in the science and math?
Yeah, so the majority of our content, it's available online, subscription-based format, and that has automatic grading, free email question answer service as well. And then high schoolers, we have, depending on your skill level or whatever, that starts at pre-algebra or algebra 1 typically through calculus 2. We just came out with a calculus
Mm.
2 that's new this year. That's our math lineup. Science, we have 4 courses. There's like a pre-chemistry, pre-physics called ICP. Typically, that's an algebra 1 base. We kind of do it by math skill level. So the ICP course, integrated chemistry, physics, that's kind of an algebra 1 base thing. Biology, also algebra 1. Then chemistry is more algebra 2-ish, and physics is pre-calculus
Mm.
based. So you kind of want to be taking those or have taken those math courses to do the science. The ICP, biology, chemistry, those are all auto graded. They have quarterly exams, everything. The physics is lectures that teach the Saxon physics textbook.
Mm.
And then we also have video labs that we added to that to get some lab experience in, and also some quarterly exams are in it as well. So we also have an earth science course that can be used as a high school, like an
Okay.
elective high
Mm.
school science course. It's a pre-algebra level of math, And Algebra 1 and 2, those teach all the content on the SAT, PSAT, ACT, things
Yeah.
like that. Pre-calculus teaches the CLEP pre-calculus exam content, everything on that. The calculus courses, the Calculus 1, which I think you did, right?
I pre-calc. That's the one I did.
Okay. But yeah, the calculus that covers the CLEP and AP Calculus AB exam, and then the Calculus 2, that's the AP Calculus BC
Okay.
exam. So we have all of that, and then we also have like digital downloads or CD-ROM of this CLEP Professor course.
Mhm.
That's basically more practice for if you want to do a CLEP or AP biology, CLEP or AP chemistry. No CLEP physics, but there's an AP physics, a trigonometry-based one, not the calculus-based one.
Mhm.
And then it also has CLEP and AP Calculus 1. Those are all in our CLEP Professor courses.
Wow.
So
That's a
yeah, so
lot.
we have all that. Yes, it is a lot.
Um,
It feels like a lot sometimes. Yeah.
so I know that there's sometimes a lot of struggle with, I don't, like a misunderstanding around homeschoolers that they can't like take the SAT or AP classes. So that's really nice that you provide all the math for the SAT in your courses and then also for CLEP. I was actually looking into taking the CLEP for pre-calculus before, and I was going to do calculus 1, but we did it with a local college instead.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was like fully prepared me for that. I would have not done as well as I did without pre-calculus. So without your pre-calculus. So
Good.
it really helped me out.
Good. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, and as you know, we just like pre-algebra has algebra in it. Most pre-calculus don't have calculus in them, but
Mm,
we put some fundamentals of calculus in.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, if you did fine in that course, then for sure that's going to help you in an introductory calculus course. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's good to know.
yeah. And I know you also offer live options as well.
Yes, yes, we do. And those meet once per week, actually starting next Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so Algebra 1 through Calculus 1, and those meet on Tuesdays. A lot of it is kind of an accountability thing and just kind of
Mm,
a classroom feel. Also allows me to get to know the student if they are going to college or even a trade school thing and they need some kind of recommendation from a
mm,
teacher. I know their behavior. I know
mm,
their effort, all those different things. And so I can write them a good recommendation letter because I know them, and not as good as like just being in class together or whatever, but
exactly.
but
Yeah.
it's definitely good. So yeah, we have those live classes as well, and I keep them small, like
Mm,
12 students max. Sometimes we'll have a few more in there just because people drop or whatever.
mhm.
But yeah, some of them are over full, some of them under full for next year. But yeah, those we've been doing for a long time now, 10 years, I
Wow.
think. Yeah.
And I love the accountability part of it because with our homeschooling, we've really built a rhythm. Like math is the first thing we get done. If it wasn't, we probably wouldn't be as faithful with it. But
Mm-hmm.
I can see
Yes.
why that live would really help keep everyone like kind of like, okay, this has to be done this week.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah. And you have to pay for the class. You have to,
mhm,
be there at a certain time. I try to keep it really simple, but also like serious, try to treat all the kids the same.
mhm,
And, nobody gets excuses. Oh, well,
mhm,
I slept in, so is it okay if I turn my homework in? I mean, no.
mhm.
This is when it's due, and that's always how I've done it. And they've always been full or over full, and yeah, I think parents appreciate that
Yeah.
I try to teach all the students, treat them all the same way, have the same standard for everybody, and just hold them to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes that's one negative thing that some people see in homeschoolers is we're not able to keep as strict of deadlines. And sometimes online
uh
classes are very helpful in kind of teaching that a little bit
yeah,
better.
right, get some practice with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So you have the live and then kind of like the regular option with the recorded classes.
hmm
Um, we started doing Saxon for most of our schooling, and then when we got upper levels, my mom was not able to keep up with all the math, so that's how we found the dive videos for Saxon.
Okay.
And you also do a bunch of those. Do you do all of
Yes.
the Saxon books, or like just upper
Oh,
level?
we do 5-4 through through their calculus. Yeah,
Okay.
math 5-4 through their calculus. Yeah, and we have lectures for those as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
kind of how we started with it was with the math, the teaching the Saxon books.
whenever we started using the dive for Saxon, it
Mhm.
was so much easier to follow along with the lesson because sometimes reading math lessons is really hard to kind of
Yes.
understand what's going on.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, really, I think for the majority of people, math is more of a learn by doing thing.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I patterned it, really after some of my favorite college teachers who
Mm.
I was really able to learn a lot from. They just did examples like in engineering. I mean, which like I mentioned was is mostly math based. I mean, put the problem up on the chalkboard and solve it and see if we have questions, and we'd be taking notes and going through that problem, and you'd just be like, oh, I get it now.
Hmm.
And I think there's something with math. It is a it's a physical mental, you use everything with it. You're writing stuff down, you got that pencil to the paper, you're thinking, you're doing all of these things together rather than just passively. I mean, you could like just passively watch the video, which
Hmm.
I mean that helps, but it's not like writing stuff and taking notes and pause and rewind. Oh, I didn't quite get that. Or the dog's barking. What was that? And you got to rewind and you go back over it. I mean, compared to when I was in college, I mean, we couldn't just rewind the teacher or
No,
whatever. I mean, now there's just so much more opportunity to really learn something if you want to, with the video lectures and the things like that. Yeah.
mhm.
So,
And it's helpful to be able to go back and rewatch
mhm.
like later in the week if you're run
Yeah.
across a problem in your homework you don't understand
Right,
what it is.
right, yeah. And that's another big thing about math. You've got to be patient with it. And it's like learning a language or learning a sport or an instrument. You don't just pick it up immediately. You may have to go back and refresh your memory on some things and review and then just, practice some more. It's not like you get it all the first time.
No,
So,
for sure. Oh, and then I was gonna ask another question because I've done a few online classes before, and sometimes it's very, very hard to follow the teacher, especially if they're
hmm
not like in front of a classroom or they're doing a live version. But
hmm
I never had an issue with any of your lectures, like following it.
Wow.
So I was just wondering, how do you like develop, was it a hard thing to be able to teach like math without students? Like, how did you develop that skill?
Um, Yeah, oh, yeah, because yeah, when I'm recording stuff, I'm not doing that in front of a class or whatever.
Hmm.
But well, I think one thing that you were able to connect to it well is, thank your parents for giving you a good home education.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of it. That you did notice that though. I think that's interesting, and just some things maybe. Because I wanted to be an engineer, math didn't exactly come easy for me. So, I mean, you're doing engineering, right? You're going in doing
Hmm.
calculus, or you did calculus already, is that right?
Yeah.
And you haven't like really started college yet, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I did pre-calculus my freshman year in college. That was
Okay.
my first math course. So like you're like way ahead of me, um, as far as going into engineering. So I mean, your math didn't like just come easy for me. I think that's part of why, because I can find things that I struggled with. I did clap out of freshman English though, but I wasn't. Yeah, math was not like just like this great thing for me. I was in engineering, aerospace engineering honor society by the time I graduated, but I really had to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
I had to struggle with it a lot. I mean, honestly, I think not being great at math plus having some of those really good teachers like I mentioned, I think
Hmm.
those things helped me a lot. And then last would be just I had 15 years of teaching
Hmm.
experience before I wrote my own curriculum, and probably 5 or 6 when I started doing the Saxon lectures. And
Yeah.
so I'd been teaching a long time and I knew what students, some of the big trouble spots. I think those things together helped me see what students struggled with. And so I was always thinking about, that when I wrote the Shormann math, when I would do a dive lecture in my office, by myself, with
Hmm.
no students behind me or whatever, I'm thinking, okay, this is what they struggled with, or this is what I remember
Hmm.
struggling with, and really try to clarify those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's nice. It was. encouraging for me because math, I really enjoy math, and part of that is just because of all the amazing curriculums that I've been able to use, and especially yours, because that's when I really saw the beauty in math. But it it's not the easiest subject for me, and
Hmm.
even with all my preparation for calculus, I did have a lot of work that I needed to put into it, and
Hmm.
sometimes I felt like if I'm going to go in engineering, I need to like know math very, very well,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
comes easy. But then
Yeah.
I started talking to my parents. They're like, actually, that's not really like, if that was the case, then hardly anyone would actually do it because
Hmm.
only a few people like are brilliant like that. So that was very
Yeah.
encouraging for me to hear you say.
Good, good. I think too, we like in Shormann math, and even Saxon does this, is they start with rules and definitions in a
Mhm.
lesson, which is something you don't have to know anything about that concept, but you can memorize a definition
Mhm.
and you can write down a formula until you've got the Pythagorean theorem or whatever. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I mean, you don't have to know how it works, but you can know that the Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared is C. I mean, you can
Mhm.
do stuff like that to start with. I think that does help too, especially if you put that effort into memorizing
Mhm.
those things, because eventually it's going to click and you're going to see how it works and you can connect what you memorize with what you're doing. And I think I mean, that's a time-tested thousands of years. Euclid, that's how he started.
Mhm.
Most famous math book ever. Newton, most famous science book ever, the Principia. He started with rules and definitions. So that's why we do it. That
Yeah.
this has proven itself over centuries. So people learn doing this way. I think that helps too.
It's really cool that you were able to pull that and put it in your curriculum because a lot of math curriculums, like with conventional schooling, they just make up the new method or they change everything. But this is something
Hmm.
that you've seen in like past brilliant people who have done very well in math and science and then
Right.
implemented it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm thankful for, just that God showed me that, and other people too that I've studied that helped me,
Mhm.
see some of those things. Yeah.
It's really cool. So, whenever we get to advanced levels, a lot of people don't think that you can actually do it at home, but I found a lot of curriculums that prove that wrong, and yours especially. So, do you have any advice for parents who are worried about teaching math from home?
Well, I would say more than 90% of that struggle depends on the student's
Mm-hmm.
attitude. Um, and that's just from my experience
Mm-hmm.
with lots and lots of students. I mean, you can have the best curriculum in the world, but it doesn't matter if, the student is whining, complaining, ungrateful, disrespectful to parents, all that yucky stuff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like zero fun to be around
Yeah.
when it's time to do math. But I mean, like you mentioned this, just that how hard is math is humbling, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta find the right answer, and then you don't, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
It can make you feel bad if you don't get it, and you're just, it's a humbling thing, but you gotta be okay with getting humbled sometimes, and then to be able to move on with joy, with lots of joy. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of it is the student's attitude and whatever parents can do, in positive ways to encourage,
Mm-hmm.
find the joy in this. But yeah, that student attitude is a lot of it. Another thing is, just scripture memory or whatever. I've got at the bottom of all of my emails, Proverbs
Mm-hmm.
4:13, hold on to instruction, guard it well, steward that well. In other words, what you learn. Like I mentioned, I'm still using aerospace engineering skills from 25 years ago
Mm-hmm.
to discover new things, and I've been humbled a lot in that process. But yeah, you keep trying that. Hold on to instruction, guard it well, do something with that. And some of that attitude thing, I call that a want to. Student has to have that want to do better, to be a Proverbs 4:13 kind of learner, to want to hold on to instruction and guard it well, to steward that well. So you got to make some choices, and whatever parents can do to help students, make those good choices. And so, for example, like when I was in college, undergraduate, I hated math-based computer programming class.
Mm-hmm.
You get like one plus sign wrong, out of
Mm.
place,
Yeah.
in hundreds of lines of code, and it doesn't work. And I just remember just being so frustrated, mad, and angry about that. But I wanted to be an engineer and get an engineering degree. And God just showed me one day, okay, is this really how I want to like spend the rest of my undergraduate degree, is just being mad and angry
Mm.
and hating school?
Hmm.
No, no. And so God showed me there, there was a point there. I realized that just trying to enjoy that course anyways, that was a decision I had to make.
Mm.
I had to embrace that challenge and dig deeper with more patience, more perseverance, and joy. I had to have that want to finish well. Yeah, I'm thankful God showed me that. And like I said, I ended up being engineering honor society in the end. But yeah, there was some personal decisions that I had to realize there. All grades, I would say, like I just mentioned, patience, perseverance, being consistent, like you
Mm.
mentioned,
Hmm.
you did your math first.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's super, super important. Prayer, of course, is
Hmm.
huge. Families that pray together, I think, stay together, and students who pray about their abilities and efforts, their attitudes, those things can help. And just I was going to mention too, just younger grades, because eventually they're going to get to high school.
Hmm.
I think some people maybe make that more complicated than it needs to be, but really just arithmetic, memorizing math facts, addition,
Hmm.
subtraction, multiplication, division, fraction, decimal, percent, reducing fractions. If you come into algebra 1 and just are not very good at those things, it's going to slow you down
Hmm.
and even like stop you or whatever. But the more parents can do those things, which they do know how to do. I mean, all
Hmm.
parents can do 5 plus 5 or whatever and help,
Yeah. Yeah.
know that's 10 and help their kids with all of that kind of stuff. You don't do that, and they're just going to struggle more in high school. I would say too, for high school, one suggestion here.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to lay down laws or whatever, but things I've seen work: rewards for success, penalties for poor
Hmm.
performance, just like the real world works.
Hmm.
Um, do you get a raise or a bonus for poor performance? No.
Hmm.
You get fired. So, I think that's a big thing for parents, is to help the child take ownership. This is your class. Yeah, I might be paying for it. This is your class though.
Hmm.
If you fail, you have to pay for the class, especially a high schooler.
Hmm.
It's their course, not mom and dad's. But if they succeed and do well, there, some kind of reward
Hmm.
behind that. With our courses in particular, the like Shormann math, just a simple 5-minute check. Parents don't have to know how to do the math, just a simple 5-minute check online. Go look at their grades, look at their notebook, make sure they're taking notes, things
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
They don't have to know the math, but they do have to supervise, hold accountable. Some more than others. Obviously, it just depends on the kid too.
Hmm.
It's a discipleship opportunity, a chance for a student to see what it means to honor their parents, a chance for the parent to help disciple their child, and build Galatians 5:22-23 character. So there's lots of good discipleship opportunity in something like that, that you don't have to know what the fundamental theorem of calculus is to do those kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you can motivate them to know that, and yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. My mom always says all hard work yields a profit. So whenever I
Mm,
finish a hard course, there's a sense of satisfaction, not just in like the final grade you get, but also like I finished it and I gave my full effort to it. And there's
yeah.
something so rewarding about that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, very rewarding and satisfying.
Mhm.
Yes. Run the race well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hard, but it's
Yeah.
worth it in the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here and for talking with us. I am encouraged. I know there's a lot of other people who are encouraged by listening. So thank you.
Good. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're able to get together and talk about all this.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's needed. So good
Mhm.
job.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
All right.
So that is it for episode number 22. thank you so much to Dr. Shormann for taking time out of his very busy schedule to talk with us today, and for taking so much of his time and talent and investing it into the homeschooling community. It really, really makes a difference. It has made a difference on my life, and I know I speak for a lot of other people. So if you are curious about anything we talked about in this episode regarding Shormann Math and the science curriculum he offers, as well as the live classes, I have linked his website below, which covers everything we talked about. So you can find his classes, his self-paced, live, and science all on his website, as well as a bunch of extra information if you are curious to know more. So be sure to check that out. If you want to find Dr. Shormann on Instagram, I have linked his Instagram page below, as well as the Dive Facebook page, so you can go check out more information there. I hope you were encouraged and inspired by this episode. That is always the goal. And the reason I'm so passionate about Shormann Math is simply because before I found Dr. Shormann's teaching, I really didn't see the purpose behind learning math. It's just something I did. It was kind of like a chore, something you do every day that doesn't really have a purpose. And sometimes that's very frustrating to learn without a purpose and to feel like you're not, that you're wasting your time almost. And through Dr. Shormann's teaching, I was able to see, no, it's such a blessing to be able to learn math. I just had a complete mindset change, and I saw the beauty in math because he linked it back to God, and anything that I'm doing to help me understand God better or to pursue him more just makes it worthwhile. I saw the purpose in math through the idea that learning math, I learned more about God's character. He created it. He used it to create the whole universe. It is the language of science. So it is really a powerful tool to learn, and it became less of a chore and more of a wonderful opportunity to learn more about God's creation. So that is why I am so passionate about sharing Shormann Math. Not only has it changed the way I view math, but also the trajectory of my future. I probably would not be going into engineering without it. My sister is starting to really enjoy doing math more than she ever has. She's actually a year ahead of me and will be going into 9th grade in pre-calculus. We've recommended it to friends who have had the exact same experience we have had. So if you're looking for a good math curriculum, look no further than Shormann Math, and hopefully this episode has highlighted that to you. For next week, we are going to continue this curriculum highlighting by talking with Mr. Norlander from The Nomadic Professor. It is a history curriculum that I've never done, but I wish I would have. It looks so cool. I can't wait to share it with you all. And so you'll have to stick around for that next week. And the 12th grade episode that I promise I will get out soon will be coming out at the end of the month. So I'll let you know more about that. If you have any questions about anything we talked about today in this episode, please email me. My email is linked below, as well as my Facebook and Instagram page. You can message me through there or just check us out on social media. And as always, continue to stay curious. I will see you all next week. Bye.